Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Tuesday morning, November the 5th. We have a lot to talk about this morning, as was the case yesterday. We have kind of a potpourri of items here, from the tropical situation to severe weather to significant snowfall. We'll kind of go over all three aspects of the weather across the nation over the next several days during this video discussion. Let's start off with a look back to yesterday's storm reports. In the middle part of the country, there were some tornadoes. We talked about the threat of severe weather, basically from Texas all the way north and east to Missouri, and maybe even some portions of Iowa and Illinois. And the triangles right here represent actual tornado reports. And this is all preliminary. This is up until midnight last night. There certainly were some, I believe, in the overnight hours, maybe a little bit farther to the north and east here. So we'll get more reports on that today. But indeed, there were some tornadoes with yesterday's severe weather outbreak. And all the way down in the central part of Texas, there were some damaging thunderstorms as well. Now, a combination of warm, humid air pumping up from the Gulf of Mexico into the Mississippi Valley was one of the ingredients, and cold air from the north and west out across the Rocky Mountain states was another ingredient. We have this clash right here in the middle part of the country, and we'll see that very clearly on the 850 millibar temperature anomaly forecast maps, even into today, with this clash zone right here in the middle part of the country. This kind of a pattern exists in the spring months, specifically March, April, and May, the peak tornado season in the U.S., and you get the same kind of overall scenario in the fall months of October and November, with kind of a secondary peak of the tornado season. Certainly not as high in terms of total amounts as the spring, but nonetheless, there's kind of an additive effect this time of the year with the continuation of the clash of air masses into the middle part of the country. Now, this time of the year, in the fall season, of course, you get an increasing frequency of the colder air masses moving into the U.S. from Canada, whereas during the springtime, you have an increasing frequency of that warm and humid air pumping up to the north from the Gulf of Mexico. Yesterday, again, severe weather threat, a severe weather outbreak that included tornadoes, and I don't think that's the last one of the season. We very well may see another severe weather outbreak, and probably in a similar part of the nation's heartland. Well, let's now shift to the tropics here. We indeed have a pretty strong tropical storm right now. It has been named Rafael. Maximum sustained winds at last observation 60 miles per hour, so it's not all that far away from becoming a Category 1 hurricane. Right now located here over the still very warm waters of the Central Caribbean Sea. It'll skirt by the western coast of Jamaica in the near term over the next several hours, and quite likely, and this is all the forecast from NOAA's National Hurricane Center, I tend to agree with the general picture here, in that it very likely will become a hurricane in short order, probably by later on tonight, certainly by early tomorrow, probably reaching hurricane status. It is in environmentally friendly territory right now, probably crosses over western Cuba and then spills out over into the Gulf of Mexico, likely turning to the north and west and avoiding the Florida Gulf Coast, as of course that area was hit hard earlier this tropical season. Now, over the weekend, there will be an increasing vertical wind shear in the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico. It could very well cause a weakening of Rafael from what I believe will be Category 1, maybe even Category 2 hurricane status, back down to tropical storm status. We'll just have to wait and see on that. The picture here by the weekend is a little bit less clear than it is over the next 24, 48 hours or so, but again, there's a possibility that moves out into the central Gulf, perhaps undergoes some weakening later in the upcoming weekend. Again, some dry air intrusion, some vertical wind shear may get involved and kind of limit the potential of this hurricane, which of course is good news. Now, if there's any change in the trajectory here towards the central northern Gulf Coast, it may end up going a little bit farther to the west And we'll have to monitor that over the next few days. Now, at this point, the system does slow down in its northward progression. Not only may it weaken somewhat, but it may slow down in its northward progression at this time, the latter part of the weekend. However, I do believe some tropical moisture that will be sitting right here over the latter part of the weekend actually can make a move to the north and east and we'll see in a moment. It'll get absorbed, in my opinion, by an incoming upper level trough that moves into the middle part of the nation, and that tropical moisture can actually make its way all the way up to the mid-Atlantic region during the latter part of the weekend, combined with that upper level trough. In other words, we could have a break in the consecutive dry streak, places like Philadelphia, during the latter part of the upcoming weekend. A possibility of a widespread rain event for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. later this weekend into the early part of next week. And that very well could include some tropical moisture from the remnants of Rafael. Now, yesterday we also talked about the possibility of some significant snow, and that threat continues for the Rocky Mountain states. And this is the forecast map for the next 5 days, all the way out from right now to Sunday morning and last night's 0Z run of the GFS. And the main area of concern in terms of significant snowfall will be basically Colorado and New Mexico. The GFS may actually be underdoing what could end up being the case here. We may even end up with more significant snowfall than what is shown here. Anything in purple is generally 6 inches or above here over some of those higher elevations of the Colorado Rockies and down to New Mexico. And again, the GFS here may actually be underdoing what could end up happening here in terms of snowfall and significant snowfall. Again, Colorado, New Mexico over the next 5 days. Well, let's walk through last night's 0Z run of the GFS. We'll first look at the 850 millibar temperature forecast maps, and we'll take a look at the upper level vorticity field at 500 millibars. That's areas of rotation in the upper part of the atmosphere, generally associated with jet streaks, which leads to upward motion down at the lower levels of the atmosphere. But right here, we can clearly see the clash zone here with cold air, again, charging to the east across the Rocky Mountain states. Here is your frontal boundary zone, and here is some of that very warm air that flowed northward from the Gulf of Mexico and well above normal in the northeastern part of the U.S., the southeastern part of Canada. Again, this is the clash zone. This is a kind of a pattern that sets up during the spring season, the spring tornado season of March, April, and May, and again, it can repeat in October and November. Indeed, that's what is the case right now over the middle part of the nation. Now, we'll move forward here, and this is very warm weather here for the Mid-Atlantic region by tomorrow. Really later today, temperatures jump well up into the 70s in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. And then on Wednesday afternoon, all three of those urban areas, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, can reach 80 degrees, and that will be a record breaker in some spots. I think Philly's record tomorrow, 79 degrees, certainly within reach. As again, I think temperatures tomorrow afternoon will climb all the way up to about 80 degrees in the urban areas along the I-95 corridor region of the Mid-Atlantic. Now, let's move forward here. See kind of a repeat performance here by the end of the week with yet another cold blast coming across the Rocky Mountain states. Very warm and humid air for this time of the year pumping up into the eastern third of the nation, and here is your clash zone. So the bottom line here is there possibility of more severe weather later in the week, maybe even into the early part of the upcoming weekend. We're not quite done with the tropical season, in my opinion, even after Rafael, and we're not quite done with the severe weather threat, not yet anyway. And let's move forward a little bit out in time here, and we have again chilly air right here in the middle of the nation by the end of the upcoming weekend. And this is the time where some tropical moisture may get involved in that upper level trough that we'll see in a moment here. You can see the trough a little bit better on the vorticity maps here. And that tropical moisture, again, could move all the way up into the northeastern quadrant of the nation, perhaps, just perhaps, resulting in the first widespread rain event for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. late in the weekend time frame here. It's not a guarantee by any means, but it's something that's on the table, and that has not been on the table for several weeks. Well, now let's take a look at that vorticity maximum field here. Vorticity, again, in areas associated with upper level jet streaks that can produce upward motion down the lower levels of the atmosphere. And this is that vorticity maxima that helped to contribute to yesterday's severe weather outbreak and last night's severe weather. Not only do you require a clash of air masses in terms of temperatures, cold air from the west, warm air to the east, you also need some upper level support in that to cause upward motion in this particular case, the center part of the nation. Indeed, that ingredient was there yesterday and last night. Now let's move forward here, and we'll see kind of a reinforcing upper level trough with that associated jet streak or vorticity maxima by later on tomorrow, right over the Four Corners region. And this is that upper level trough. Right here you see an upper level trough by these black lines here on this particular map. And on the front side of that upper level trough, you generally have a flow like this, southwesterly flow. And here is the reflection of 500 millibars by early Thursday of Rafael, perhaps a hurricane at this particular time. And again, that moisture can flow to the northern Gulf of Mexico over the weekend and then get pushed up to the north and east as this trough continues to slide to the east. In other words, that southwesterly flow of air on the front side of this next trough could absorb some of this tropical moisture and push it up to the north and east, resulting in a possible widespread rain event for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Sunday, Monday time frame. Now let's clear the maps here and move forward in time here. And here we go. And again, this could also result in another severe weather outbreak at the end of this week. Going into the early part of the weekend, you have that cold air coming in from the west. You have that warm air flowing northward from the Gulf, and in this case, containing some tropical moisture. And you have this vigor support in the upper part of the atmosphere. Here we go. Now by Friday, this system may weaken again in the latter part of the upcoming weekend. And some of that tropical moisture, though, could get absorbed by that incoming trough, which ultimately moves to the north and east. And here we go by Saturday, and then finally into Sunday. And this trough by itself, by the way, could very well produce some decent rain in the mid-Atlantic region and northeast U.S. It slides, yes, it does slide to the north and west of the northeastern states. However, even from that position, by itself, that upper level system could result in a decent rainfall for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Now you add in some potential tropical moisture, and you could have a widespread decent rain event here for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. Again, we're talking Sunday, Monday time frame. Well, now let's wrap up with the surface forecast maps. Again, you still have that upper level support. You still have that clash of air masses with cold air charging to the east from the north and west, and warm, humid air flowing northward from the Gulf of Mexico. And you have a strong, an area of strong thunderstorms as we begin the day here on Tuesday, November 5th. Now let's move forward here. Again, on the backside of a high pressure system, which is located right here by this evening, you have this southwesterly flow of air, and it turns much warmer today in the mid-Atlantic region, and possible record-breaking high temperatures tomorrow afternoon of near 80 D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, on the backside of that high pressure system. Now let's move forward. As has been the case in recent weeks, that cold frontal system just weakens by the time it moves in the mid-Atlantic region. Maybe an isolated shower associated with that weakening cold frontal system Wednesday night, Thursday. I'm talking about in the mid-Atlantic region. Then your eyes turn to the Gulf of Mexico. Here is very well could be a hurricane, maybe Cat 1, even Cat 2 status here. Again, likely, very likely sliding a decent amount to the west of Florida's Gulf Coast. They, of course, got hit hard by Helene and Milton earlier this tropical season. This one looks like it's going to spill out into the central Gulf, maybe even a little farther west than what this run of the GFS is indicating. The European model, for example, has it sliding farther to the west, and that certainly is within the realm of possibility. Now, here we go And let me just backtrack a little bit. And this is that system that could produce some snowfall over Colorado and New Mexico over the next few days. And again, GFS may actually be underdoing what could end up being the case in some of those higher elevations. This also includes the threat of accumulating snow also includes the Denver metro region here. But again, Colorado and New Mexico could get significant snowfall over the next several days. Now, let's move forward and see where the GFS moves tropical moisture. Here we go by the latter part, the early part of the upcoming weekend. It's situated right here over the northern Gulf Coast. And again, I mentioned yesterday, possible landfall from this system could be, let's say, Apalachicola all the way to New Orleans. Unlikely that it's farther to the east in places like Tampa Bay this time. Again, maybe Apalachicola to New Orleans, the area to be monitoring this closely over the next few days. And this tropical moisture then very well could get wrapped up in this incoming trough and move to the north and east with southwesterly flow in the upper part of the atmosphere. Let's move forward here in time. Here we go. Again, you have a strong system over the the upper part of the Midwest, and here we go. A potential pretty widespread rain event latter part of the upcoming weekend over the mid-Atlantic region, and ultimately right here into the northeastern states during the second half of the upcoming weekend. And again, some of this green here represents some tropical moisture from Rafael moving northward. It very likely would end the consecutive dry streak, which in Philadelphia, for example, is a record for the number of days in a row without measurable precipitation. I think we're now at 37 in Philly. Obviously, this would end that without question here during the upcoming weekend. Then we go into the early part of next week, and finally we'll go into Tuesday of next week, a week from right now. Basically quiet conditions at this time over the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Another storm system moves over the Rocky Mountains with a potential for more Rocky Mountain snow early part of next week. So still a lot going on across the nation, from the tropics to the snowfall in the Rockies to severe weather across the middle part of the nation. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.